Hello, everybody. I understand that I'm the speaker who's standing between you and your freedom. So we're going to keep it light and we're going to keep it happy. When I was invited initially to talk about the future of AI for this talk, I was focused to build the kind of content, the kind of presentation that would tell you about what we're building, what we're planning to release this quarter, next quarter, Q4, and so on and so forth. So you have a good idea what's going to happen. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I don't want to do it. I wanted something deeper, something different. A lot of you have heard about AI all over the place. There's so much noise, so much signal. But the truth is, as we release these products, as we communicate our roadmap, you're going to hear about them. So I decided to do something a little bit different and change the presentation to a completely different direction, at least not focused on what I initially started. So today, we're going to talk about the taboo topic. Is it moral to use AI in the context of worker safety? And we're going to go deep. You are a special audience to me. I think you deserve that kind of content. And it's usually avoided. Usually we try to not touch on it. Usually we try to just accept that it should be fine. It's a good idea. So that's the topic of the presentation today. A lot of people have pointed out to a lot of concerns about the rise of AI technologies. Some of it is just panic that doesn't really root in the reality of what AI has to offer. But a lot of it are legitimate concerns that should be addressed. People talk about different angles as to how the society could change in future, whether in context of jobs or misinformation and other things. So let's be specific. We're going to talk about one context and one context only, worker safety. So I'm not here to talk about other topics. I'm not talking about how democracies are going to be impacted by AI or anything else. We are here as safety professionals, as EHS professionals, and that's the topic that we're going to talk about. So that's the context. I am a very data-driven person. And sometimes I ask myself why we're doing this. And there are a lot of good answers for it. Here's one of the very great answers. And part of the reason that I decided to stay in Velocity for as long as I have. What I have on this figure are two trends. One is the fatality rates in the US, and the other one are total recordable injuries in the US, recordable cases from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. As you can see, since many years ago, since 1990s that these data is available, the total number of incidents has been going down. The number of fatalities, not as much. This figure goes all the way to 2013. So I looked around to see if there are reports, what happened after 2013. And I found this one. It goes all the way to 2018. It's so interesting because the trends continued. Now the number of total incidents has gone lower than what it used to be, but the number of fatalities has plateaued. It's not going down anymore. It's been quite some time that it hasn't moved in a meaningful way. But that goes to 2018, and I thought, well, maybe since then something has changed. So this time, I went to the Bureau's website myself, and Bureau doesn't have a graph like that. At least I couldn't find it. They publish each year independently, and in each year they typically include the last 4 years as well. But if you want a long period of time, you got to go download them one at a time. And I put this together. I didn't want to go all the way back to 1990s. So this is the last 21 years, starting from 2002 until 2022. And I was astonished to see that the fatality rates has hardly moved in 21 years. This has got to be telling us something. Like we all have been trying. The software industry has been trying. EHS professionals have been trying. Overall, on aggregate in the US, we have to accept the fact that we haven't had as much success as we wish we've had. We've brought out the total number of incidents, going down. That's excellent. But what about the critical ones? What about the ones that we care about the most? Serious injuries and fatalities, or as we call them, the SIFs. I couldn't find the most reliable data in a tabulated way on SIFs. There are different indicators and you can take them as proxy. So I stuck to presenting only the fatality ones. But even the serious injuries, based on what's out there, doesn't look like it has moved that much in the last 20, 21 years. And I asked myself, for how long are we going to put up with it? And is there anything that we can do in this context? Understandably, one would argue maybe it's a matter of policy, maybe it's a matter of the realities of capitalism, pressuring everybody to cut costs, not to hire more safety professionals, and many, many other factors. Probably, but I'm not here to talk about that either. I don't have a solution for politics or policy, but I know the reality of the US in 2025, and it doesn't look like we're going in the direction that's necessarily going to make a meaningful change. Why do SIFs persist? There are a lot of studies that hypothesize why, but these are some of the common themes. The personnel is under pressure. They don't have a lot of free time on their hand to go and proactively start initiatives that could prevent SIFs. There is administrative burden, more and more regulatory paperwork, more and more forms to fill, more and more audits and compliance mandates, reducing the bandwidth that people can spend on SIFs. Specialist shortage is another one. How often do you see many, many ergonomists in one place? Not often. Or EHS professionals, trained ones, qualified ones, they can help you. And budgetary constraints. So maybe those are some of the root causes. I wanted to talk about business versus morality in this context. On one hand, you, EHS software customers, you have certain objectives. You want to maximize worker safety and health. You want to maintain status, compliance status, reputation status, legal status, everything. And at the same time, you're under pressure to minimize costs. Well, if we are software developers for you, then working backwards from our customers, that's informing us what we want to do. On the surface, the answer is simple. We want to develop software that assists with worker safety and health. All sorts of management around that. We want to support you to maintain your compliance status. We want to provide cost-wise, scalable solutions. But what are the challenges that you have to achieve your objectives? You can't spend as much money as you want. You don't necessarily have all the resources that you want. You have to deal with all the administrative burden, and that overhead has been only increasing over time. And we as software companies have to work on those challenges on your behalf to make your life easier. When I thought about those challenges, and I compared them against my list of the root causes of SIFs, they're pretty much the same thing. The point that I want to make with this slide is that between us moving in a direction that is profitable, that is satisfying our customers, and the direction to reduce SIFs, there is perfect alignment. This is one of those very few contexts, worker safety, that the business objective and the moral objective has no trade-off. The more we can help you overcome your challenges to achieve your business objectives, whatever they are, and whatever their motivations is in a capitalistic system, is perfectly aligned with tackling the root causes of SIFs. So far, I haven't even talked about AI. I make the assertion in this presentation that AI is a generational opportunity to go after SIFs. A generational opportunity to put a dent on the graph that I showed you. And I'm going to make an argument in this presentation as to why that is the case. On high level, in abstract world, we can be data-driven and be preventative in that sense. We can make a lot of administrative work automated and increase efficiency. We can democratize expertise and deal with shortage of qualified experts. And AI deployments over time has become less and less expensive. But that's too abstract. It's like come make a claim without really linking it to the reality of your day-to-day life. Like I have a safety incident, what do you do with that? So we have to de-abstract it. A lot of AI ideas on surface are great. They're abstract notions. When you try to convert them to something actionable to build, a lot of them crumble at that point. So let's de-abstract and see what that would really mean for us. First of all, when it comes to SIFs, there is a piece of preventative approaches that can happen before doing the work. And there's a category that can happen after the work, after an incident. On the pre-side, the easiest example are job safety assessment, or whatever you call them in your organization. When I worked in BC Hydro, we called them something different. But if you had as many EHS professionals as you wanted, and every time a tradesperson wanted to fill in a JSA, say, this is the task that I'm going to do. What are all the hazards that I'm going to be exposed to? They might be inexperienced. They might not have knowledge in that area. They might not have knowledge with that machinery. They might be new. If you had as many EHS professionals as you wanted, on their shoulder, it tells them, these are the hazards that you should be mindful of. These are the controls that you should think of for each of these hazards to minimize the chance of risk to materialize. We could prevent many of the SIFs. I have personally seen these incidents happen because the preparation was inadequate, because somebody didn't know they should be mindful of that particular failure mode, of that particular hazard. And I've seen it in electrical power plants personally. Plus, it's a lot faster to use AI for it. What's another example? Not abstract. Task risk assessment. This one a lot of you are familiar with. An example of it is there is some design for a worker to perform something. They're going to develop chronic pain, musculoskeletal disorders, soft tissue injuries, and that repetition could cause a problem. Well, we can use AI in order to assess the risk and change the design of the work environment. So over time, that kind of injuries don't materialize anymore. And there are many, many cases similar to this. It doesn't have to be this example. Like a lot of you are familiar with the hand motion capture. That's another example. There are tons of examples that you do repetitive tasks or you have a design that is prone to high risk and you want to identify that. Another example, post-incident analysis. All right, we did our best, yet something happened. What then? One of the conversations that I had with Brian and Ben a long time ago from SIMS, which is what Matt was referring to yesterday, was if we could have a reliable breakdown of the energy sources and the hazards that are responsible for our incidents, especially critical incidents, we can drive a lot of value out of it. I'm going to give you 3 examples of it. Example 1, you have a lot of facilities. You're a big company. You want to have a fleet-wide point of view. Overall, what kind of hazards? Gravitational ones, something's falling, someone's falling. Vehicular ones, a car is hitting another car or somebody, a pedestrian. Electrocution, slip and fall, anything. if you could have a detailed breakdown of the portfolio of your incidents, then it tells you what kind of initiatives probably you want to invest on so you have the most bang for your buck. Especially if you have that data only on your critical incidents, not the inconsequential ones. Another example. Suppose you have implemented an initiative and you want to measure its effectiveness. You want to learn something from it. It's very difficult. If you look at your total incidents and it's going up or down in aggregate, it's really hard to know that the hazard or energy source that you targeted with your initiative is going up or down because it is in the mix. But if you had that breakdown, then you could look at your incidents 6 months or 1 year before your initiative was implemented, and 6 months or 1 year after your initiative was implemented, and see if you see a meaningful change in that particular category that you targeted. Last example, you can create leading indicators out of that. When I worked in power plants, sometimes we upgraded equipment that were 40-year-old. We were maintaining them for 40 years. It was the end of lifespan. It wasn't maintainable anymore. Afterwards, they had different safety failure modes that we didn't know, and we were seeing emerging incidents. Unfortunately, because there is so much happening in everybody's company and everyone is so busy, until this failure mode becomes a big thing or someone is seriously injured by it, it goes under the radar. But here, if you could break it down, you can see the change of patterns and the rising in a particular kind of energy source. The kind of incidents that you didn't used to have, now the rate is going up. Maybe we can jump on it before it becomes such a big problem. What else? Incidents have happened. If the root cause identification quality is low, then the corrective actions that we implement to prevent it from recurring is going to be not as effective as it could be. Unfortunately, we've seen time and time for many customers that the root cause data is borderline not useful. And part of the reason is we define a lot of root cause categories, like 100 of them, and we expect somebody who is filing the report to go through them, and out of 100 categories, choose the applicable ones. It's exhaustive, at best. And because of that, they default to whatever they can get away with it. Like if I were them, and I really hated doing it because there is so many of them and I'm busy with a million other tasks, I'll just default to, we were complacent, go. I can always defend that choice. I can always get away with it. But it's not useful data to you later. You can't look at root causes and say wow, this is the root cause that we should focus on. But with AI, we can do this differently. We can take those 100 categories based on the context of the incident that is being filed. We could shrink it down to the applicable 10 or whatever that number is. So it's not torture for the user to go through 100 categories anymore. They see 10 and it's easy to review and say applicable, applicable. Or another benefit is that they can't go to their usual defaults that they can get away with because it might not even be on the list. So we can increase the quality of root cause. What about corrective actions? Well, if your root cause has high quality, naturally you're increasing the quality of corrective actions. But on top of that, sometimes people haven't thought about different kind of corrective actions. Sometimes in your companies, someone might be very knowledgeable and put a corrective action in, and someone from another company can learn from it if they were exposed to that experience. But it's too much knowledge transfer. These are the things that will not happen in my lifetime. We can have AI systems that can assist people with recommending the best of corrective actions or near optimal corrective actions. It's like having infinite EHS professionals over their shoulder. You still need your EHS professionals for a lot of good reasons, including review a lot of different things, because AI systems are not going to be able to do everything for you. But so much of the shortage that comes either from budgetary restriction or the time of your EHS professionals who have to work way more than they're supposed to every week, we can avoid the problems that limitation of bandwidth has been creating. What's another category? Not abstract. Hidden risk identification. I call it hidden risk. the word is not really hidden risk. It's potential serious injury and fatality. So what happens with that one? Most of you know the story. A near miss happens. No one is injured. Everybody's busy. We want to move on to the next thing. It goes under the radar. It doesn't get a lot of attention. Sometimes that's okay. No one got hurt. That's fine. But some of these incidents had the potential for serious injury and fatality. And because of the fact that we got lucky, sheer luck, sheer chance, no one got hurt, but that failure mode still exists. Next time, the same or a very similar incident can happen, and we might not see it coming, so we're not doing anything about it. And then one day, you wake up, and somebody phones you or somebody emails you that last night in our plant, this thing happened. Out of blue. I've seen that happening. Probably all of you have. Because there are so many of these hidden risks. If we could have a system that would analyze a report and flag potential serious injury and fatality, that is identifying the hidden risk. And we can have AI systems to do that for us. This one we are releasing at the end of next month, end of Q2 this year. Actually, everything I'm talking about today is on the roadmap for this year, whether this quarter, next, or the next one. And once you have that, once you have these incidents brought up to your attention, you can decide if you want to do something about them or not. But at least it's not living there in hidden mode and then boom, surprise you one day. Last example as to how AI can help us in the context of SIF prevention. Enterprise analytics. This one everybody has talked about so much that I'm not going to talk about anymore. Like, there are so many advanced reportings, bringing the data together, building metrics, inform people. What's the median of this data? What's the average? What's the top percentile, lower percentile? Everything else. We can do a lot there, a lot. So back to where I started this presentation. If we accept the premise that moving in the direction of overcoming these challenges benefits the business objectives and the moral objectives that we have, assuming that it's moral to prevent fatalities. And I make that assertion. We may have different moralities. I believe AI is the first time that we have an opportunity of this magnitude, of this scale, to try to do something about these challenges. Because of that, I strongly believe that not only it's not amoral to use AI in the worker safety context, but it's a professional, ethical, and moral imperative to use it. The question is not whether or not it is moral to use AI in worker safety. The real question is it moral to not use AI in the worker safety? Because otherwise, we are accepting the status quo. I showed you the stats from the Bureau. Those are factual values. We are not making them. Velocity EHS is not making them. We can prevent so much avoidable harm by tackling the root causes of SIFs. We can challenge the stagnated process and fulfill our professional duty, the way I see it, which is subjective. I acknowledge that. So in conclusion, we can protect people first. We can still be mindful of our ethical obligation, while at the same time account for our business benefits, because those two are aligned in this context. For software companies to move towards building AI tools for worker safety and tackle SIFs, it's the most honorable thing we can do. For us to be profitable by building the tools that you love is the most honorable thing we can do, because that objective is perfectly aligned with overcoming the challenges that has caused SIFs for so many years to not go down. So I consider it our professional responsibility to move in that direction, whether you want to see it from a business point of view or a morality point of view. And for that, I'm going to conclude my presentation. Thank you so much.
Awesome.